What's up, Internet? My name is Southern Pacific 4449 Productions, and today I'll be making my first documentary called 4449 Steam of America. The SP-4449 was built on May 20th, 1941 for the Southern Pacific's dayline that ran between San Francisco and Los Angeles, California. Southern Pacific 4449 and its sister engines were both called GS4s. GS stands for Golden State and Golden Service. Up on the picture is a GS3. The Southern Pacific made these classes from GS2 from GS5. Sadly, in the late 50s and the early 60s, the steam age started to die down and get replaced by more modern diesels, for example, F7s and Alco PAs. Before the 4449 officially got retired, the 4449 made a double header with its sister engine 4446. In this picture, the 4446 is in black, but the 4449 is in its normal red, black, and orange. In 1956, 4449 was retired and sent to the city of Portland, Oregon, where it sat until 1973 at Oaks Park. But one day, a man named Ross Rowland looked at the 4449 and wanted to restore the locomotive. But sadly, he passed away in 1973 and never saw the daylight move an inch. But luckily, a guy from New York named Doyle McCormick was going to change the 4449's career forever with his upcoming train, the American Freedom Train. In 1974, the 4449 moved on its own power for the first time since 1956. In 1975, the 4449 made its first test run. Unfortunately, a few miles ahead, the 4449 hit the back of a dump truck and had minor damage. There were actually two more steam locomotives operating on the American Freedom Train. These are Texas and Pacific 610 and Reading T1 number 2101. Also in the Freedom Train, the 4449 met with Southern Railway number 4501 and Union Pacific number 8444. In 1978 or 1979, the American Freedom Train officially ended. That same year, the 4449 hauled an Amtrak special. Also, I found this weird photo, but kinda cool, of the 4449 detached from its tender. After the Freedom Train and the Amtrak special, it was brought back to Portland, Oregon, and brought into the Brooklyn Roundhouse, where it was repainted to its black, orange, and red. Also, that same year, the 4449 was sent to Sacramento to taking part of Rail Fair 81. 1984, the 4449 made an excursion trip from Portland, Oregon to Louisiana and back. This excursion broke the world record of the longest excursion in U.S. history. And to this day, this record isn't broken. I also forgot that the 4449 was using a Spokane, Portland, Seattle, Hancock 3 chime. Later on, this whistle would be used by Spokane, Portland, and Seattle number 700, which we'll talk later in this documentary. In 1986, the 4449 departed Union Station to go film the movie called Tough Guys. This movie is about two old men who tried to rob the same train 30 years ago, but then tried to rob it 30 years later, but then it turned out as an success. The reason why the train had to get involved was so that the men could go hijack it and then crashed into a barrier in New Mexico. After the filming was done, the 4449 returned back to Portland. In 1989, the 4449 departed Union Station again to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the LA Union Depot in Los Angeles, California. Also, another steam locomotive was there. This locomotive being the Union Pacific 844 and another steam locomotive, Addison, Topeka, and Santa Fe, number 3751. The reason why I say 3751 is because I'm not really sure if the 3751 was there to celebrate the 50th anniversary or was just there in the area for a special excursion. Along the way, the 4449 and the 844 climbed and traveled along BNSF's iconic Cajon Pass. A few miles ahead, the 4449's axle overheated and had to stop. But fortunately, the 844 and the 4449 both arrived at the same time to the depot. In 1991, the 4449 had its whistle changed to one of my favorite whistles of all time, a Northern Pacific Hancock 3 chime. The reason why it was granted a new whistle was because Spokane, Portland, and Seattle number 700 just got restored the same year. So if you really think about it, it kind of makes sense. Here's a picture of the 4449 and 700 at Portland Union Station. In fact, this photo was taken in 1997, not in 1991. The 4449 was sent to Sacramento to celebrate Rail Fair 91. And then, once Rail Fair 91 was done, it was a high-speed run back to Portland. A year later, in 1992, the 4449 and recently restored Southern Pacific 2472 made a doubleheader in Sacramento. In 1995, the 4449 hauled a long freight train on the recently formed Oregon and Western. It didn't just pull freight, it also sometimes made some train rides along the Oregon and Western. Also, for this special freight train, the tender was renamed to Western Pacific instead of Southern Pacific, which I think it's kind of cool in my opinion. I don't know why they would have to do that, but it's kind of cool. 1998, the 4449 hauled a special excursion from Portland, Oregon to Bend, Oregon, and returned. In the process, the 4449 hit 70 miles per hour while doing this excursion. In 1999, the 4449 was again invited to Rail Fair, this time to Rail Fair 1999, aka Rail Fair 99. In the process, 4449 met with McLeod Railway number 25. After this, the 4449 also picked up a Shay and then traveled to the destination in Sacramento. Once the 4449 arrived, it met with Southern Pacific 2464, Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe 3751, Union Pacific 3985, and Union Pacific 844. Unfortunately, at Rail Fair 99, the Union Pacific 844 blew up a safety valve, and it was engulfed up in a big cloud of steam. The 3985 and the 844 both had to be towed back to Cheyenne, Wyoming.